Get ready to dive deep into Buffalo's vibrant music scene because we're stepping inside the fabulous Flamingo Lounge for the 9th season of local music magic. In the Flamingo Lounge with Rockabilly Greg is more than just a podcast. It's a collection of stories that delves deep into the vibrant musical history of Buffalo and Western New York, creating a living archive where each story adds a unique thread to the overall narrative. This week marks the beginning of the 9th season of In the Flamingo Lounge and the 5th session of Rockabilly to Rachmaninoff, a captivating series promising unique insights from a featured guest from the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. New episodes in the series drop every 2 months on the second Saturday. But before we get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, CatsLikeUs.com, Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, and valued supporter Buffalo Ironworks for helping to keep the music alive. Joining us this week is Mark Hodges, the principal percussionist of the Grammy Award-winning Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. An accomplished recording artist, Mark has appeared on more than 60 recordings with the BPO and has also recorded extensively with the world-renowned Cleveland Orchestra. He has toured internationally across multiple continents, performing both standard and contemporary repertoire. Alongside his performing career, Hodges is deeply committed to education. He serves on the percussion faculty at the Eastman School of Music and SUNY Buffalo State University and is a highly sought-after clinician, adjudicator, and lecturer. Mark's work also extends beyond the concert hall and classroom. He is the founder of Druminar, a Buffalo-based program that uses music-driven, hands-on experiences to support corporate training, leadership development, and team building. Through Druminar, Mark works with organizations to strengthen communication and collaboration, partnering with Fortune 100 companies, national banks, international manufacturers, and nonprofit organizations. Hodges holds degrees from the Cleveland Institute of Music, Case Western Reserve University, and the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, as well as a Master of Business Administration from Capella University. It is my honor to welcome to the Flamingo Lounge for the 5th edition of Rockabilly to Rachmaninoff, Mark Hodges.
Thank you very much.
Mark.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it down and looking forward. We've been chatting away like
right.
two old schoolgirls here before we got on. So I'm looking forward to hearing your stories.
And this is your what episode?
Oh,
your
gosh, 200th
200th
yeah.
in your 5th year, you said?
5th year, just starting the 5th year here this week. So yeah,
it's great to be here.
208, somewhere around there. I lose count, but yeah, it's been a great ride, and working with the BPO has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we can partner up and get some of you folks down to. We've had a whole bunch of different types of folks that are involved with the BPO and are percussionists. So I've had a lot of drummers on the show, so I'm looking forward to talking to you. And I really want to talk to you too about the Druminar, because I am part of a marketing and sales organization, and we actually just did a board retreat a few months back, and we had a improv comedy come in to train us in some stuff for our board. So what you do sounds just as interesting and captivating, to do something a lot different, than the same old stuff. So we'll get into that. But as I mentioned off air, I like to start with asking everyone if you had an aha moment where you said, music's what I want to do.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this. And I think, it's a good opportunity to kind of talk about the BPO and some of the, myths and
Right.
excitement about it and what's coming up and things like that. And I think it's really, really great that, you're allowing us to come on and speak about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thanks for having me. And, as far as an aha moment, I think most musicians, when you talk to them, they sort of have a story, and it usually starts in their childhood, right? So
yeah.
It's never like, well, when I was, 46, I decided to play, start playing. That doesn't happen. Usually most musicians that I know, at least most of the professionals, started when they were really, really young.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of the same. So I would say I was probably too young to have an aha moment.
Okay.
It just sort of, kind of happened along the way, and, just was something that just evolved.
Right.
And there's always the story of, at least my mom likes to tell the story of, well, I played pots and pans, on
Yeah.
the floor, the typical, that kind of thing.
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
so that sort of got me started when I was younger, but I always did want to play the drums. It
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, I wanted to play guitar or anything else
Right.
like that. I think if I were to play any other instrument, maybe it would be bass, because
Ah,
bass and drums kind of go
sure.
together,
Yeah.
right? And that's,
Right.
they fit together.
Yep.
I really started out, younger, and that kind of gave me that the future,
Mhm.
just sort of thinking about, all right, what do I want to do? You don't usually think about that too much
Mhm.
when you're a kid, right? You
Right.
wait till you get older, and I have some students now that say the same things, and they're in college, and they're still like, I don't know,
Right.
exactly what I want to do, even with my musical career.
Mhm.
So that's sort of how I started out. So if you want to call that an aha moment, I guess you could.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how
No,
I started.
no, it all works. So when you were younger, what kind of music was around your house?
Well, my mom would play lots of classical music from the radio or
Mhm.
from, records and things like that. And my dad was a big jazz, funk kind of
Mhm.
person. So I
Yeah.
really got both of the two going, and and
Right.
I listened to rock. So
Okay.
we had a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of different things going
Right.
on. But it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, going, listening to music growing up, because I think that sort of people, go back to, oh, I listened to this when I was a kid, right? And
Mhm.
now that's why I like it.
Right.
But the interesting thing, because I play classical music now, was the particular pieces that my mom played, I wasn't fond of
Mhm.
necessarily. Those
Okay.
weren't my favorite classical pieces.
Right.
So when I found other classical pieces, I was like, oh, I like this,
Sure.
way better. So it wasn't like I was listening to classical music when I was a kid
Mhm.
that much. I like the jazz,
Right. Yeah.
and of course the rock and things like
Mhm.
that. So that kind of gave me sort of an all around musical knowledge, and which is funny because that's sort of what I do today now, as I play
Sure.
classical music. And for those of you who don't know, that the BPO does not just play classical music. We
Mhm.
also play, we do rock shows, and we
Right.
do obviously jazz and pop shows, and so that kind of ties in, I guess, with
Right.
my childhood. So it worked out well.
Well, my gosh, monster drummers in the jazz and in the rock world. I mean, I always ask, if you go way back to jazz, okay, Krupa or Chick Webb, you know,
Yeah,
it's like, it's like, and I love.
those are two great ones.
I saw some stuff on it. It was like, back in the days at the Apollo, they used to have these like jazz offs, like, who could swing better, it would be
Right.
between the Benny Goodman band and the Chick Webb band. I could imagine being at that venue at that time,
Oh,
it's like,
right.
holy moly.
I was lucky when I was in high school to see Buddy Rich play when he was like, I
Ah,
don't know,
yeah,
150 years old, and I was surprised how
right.
great he was,
Yeah,
even at that age.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always say I like to, because, growing up, I always used to watch Johnny Carson, and of course, Carson was a drummer. And
Mhm.
he used to say that because he was a magician also, and he did a lot of stuff, sleight of hand stuff with his left hand. So he was really good on the kit with his left hand. And
Mm,
people are like, yeah, you've got
I
a
didn't
little
know that.
something extra because most people aren't as good with the left hand as if they're right-handed, right? And he's like, yeah, he always kind of downplayed it, but there's clips with him playing with Buddy Rich and stuff, and he's keeping up.
Yeah, I've seen him on shows, and he
Yeah.
used to like to play with his pencils a lot. I
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's always twirling. Except when Rickles broke his pencil box. That's a classic. So now, were you self-taught on the drums, or did you start taking lessons like in school, or?
Well, I sort of started out, like most drummers, I guess, playing drum set, and
Hmm.
so you sort of start a little bit self-taught. Um, in fact, mostly self-taught on drum set, right?
Hmm.
Not taking too many lessons on the drum set, but
Right.
then, as I got older, I took, formal lessons
Right.
for percussion and all sorts of different, what I do today.
Sure.
And then I was also taking piano lessons at the same time,
Okay.
so learning those kinds of things.
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of self-taught drummers,
Hmm.
and that works for a lot of people. I think, it's a different type of learning when you're playing drum set and just listening
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because when I teach, sometimes I'll just point out, okay, you play this or you play that, and say we haven't really read any music yet, and
Yeah.
they think that's funny. Oh yeah, right, we haven't. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even realize,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of people who learn that way,
Mm-hmm.
and that and it works for them. So
Yeah. Now, how important in your opinion is it to learn the rudiments of, just on the practice pad, just
rudiments are very important.
yeah.
Well, that's what everybody says, right?
Right.
I was never a person that learned all the rudiments and went with the rudiments,
Okay.
right? But that's what I was taught, right? Okay,
Right.
learn your rudiments. So for drummers, the way I learned was as I went through lessons,
Mm-hmm.
I would play music and sort of play the rudiments, and then afterwards they'd point out, oh, you just played this. Oh, you just played that.
Right.
You
Okay.
played this. And so I was like, oh, I guess I know my rudiments. So that's how I like to teach them too.
Right.
You don't really need to know the rudiments and then
Yeah.
learn the piece, because if you're playing them. So,
Sure.
I would say, I don't want to say they're not important, because that would be wrong, but,
Right.
I think, playing, basically, if you can play the rudiments, there's sort of a kind of a joke going on that, even the percussionists don't even know all their rudiments, because they keep making up more and more names
Right.
to them, and they're more and more rudiments,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Or, so
Yeah.
all the, percussionists out there will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, is there such a thing with the drums as like a Suzuki method where you're just learning kind of by ear and by feel?
Sure. Yeah. And that's mostly drum set.
Mhm.
You would learn that.
Okay.
I mean, the way I learned was just playing with recordings,
Mhm.
right? You play along with a recording. That's drum set, right?
Mhm.
But not so much once you get into other areas of percussion.
Mhm.
And you really need to know your basics, and you usually start with the snare drum, and then
Sure.
you move on to mallet instruments and other
Right.
things to learn as you go. Everybody takes a different path, though. It doesn't have to be that, but that's the typical path.
Right.
But it's so, percussion is so interesting because there's so many facets to percussion, right? So,
Mhm.
I always start, with orchestral, because that's what I do. But then there's, of course, drum set with
Mhm.
rock, jazz, and all those different things. Then you have, like world percussion, like, the
Mhm.
hand drums and congas, bongos, all those types
Right.
of things, and tons of different, instruments from around the world, tabla and all
Mhm.
this stuff that we don't do. And then you have, there's just like marching band. Marching is a huge,
Right.
huge kind of secret drum corps.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a secret thing that I sort of grew up with, and people are mixed about it, but a lot of people really learn a lot from doing drum corps. So there's a whole section on that,
Right.
and then there's jazz vibes, and then there's percussion ensemble with thousands of things. So you have just so many aspects
Right.
of percussion. It's really hard to focus in on one area, and
Right.
and they sort of teach you to say, all right, well, you need to do everything.
Mhm.
And so what happens is that really doesn't work. You sort of end up having to try to pick
Sure.
one
Yeah.
area and be good at it. But that's, that also makes it interesting, right? So I
Yeah.
like the fact that one of the interesting things about my job is that I get to come in and play usually different instruments every day. I'm
Right.
not just playing the same instrument over and
Mhm.
over again.
Yeah.
And so I like the variety of doing that. And there's so many different ways. And like I said, there's different techniques and different, ways that you have to play percussion instruments. And so it makes it challenging at times. And so sometimes you, of course, feel like a master of none, right? And
Right, yeah.
you try not to feel that way, but
Sure.
but we're asked to do so many things. And so the way it works in the percussion world in orchestras is that there's a percussion section, usually made up of 2 or 3 or 4 percussionists,
Mhm.
regular members, and then there's a timpanist, because
Right.
there's so much music written for timpani
Mhm.
that we have our own dedicated timpanist. But that timpanist also plays percussion, and percussionists also play timpani. But in the orchestra, we kind of just stick to one thing
Mhm.
to make it easy. So, but we're asked to play everything under the sun in percussion.
Right.
So people always ask me, how many instruments do you play? What do you play? I just say everything. because I can't
Yeah.
name them all, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have like our trumpet player doesn't play trombone and tuba and all these other things.
Sure. Yeah.
They just stick to the trumpet. Not that it doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
it's easy. It's not. It's I'm just saying that they kind of focus on one area, and ours is spread thinner, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
makes it interesting. I
and,
like it.
and percussion, they're kind of the glue, of the. Because I know I've said many times, as I mentioned off air, I sing with my buddy, and now we do a folk duo, and he's on the guitar, and every now and then he'll get a little faster, as we play, and it's like slow down. And one time we were able to play my wife's niece's husband, Pearson, great drummer, and we were out in Canandaigua for a family trip, and we got a gig down there, and we said, well, just sit in with us, right? And he said, I don't have a kit, but he had some brushes, and he played brushes on the guitar case. But just doing that and keeping that rhythm, I think that was one of the best gigs we ever had, because we kept he was in the pocket the whole time, and it kept us in the pocket, so I think there's a lot to be said for, really keeping that rhythm there and rocking and rolling. So
I like to call us the icing on the cake.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
So the way I like, people ask me this all the time. They're like, okay, well, you're back there, playing. Sometimes, orchestra music is different for percussion, right? Sometimes we'll play a ton of things and we're playing all the time, and then the next piece, the composer writes us one note,
right?
So it's like, well, but it's funny because that one note can sometimes be extremely important. And I remember recently we're doing a piece, and I was playing the tam tam, which is a gong, right?
Okay.
Playing that, and that was just one note in the whole piece. And but the conductor really wanted to hear that one note,
right?
And was talking about it the whole time, and I was like, I play gong notes all the time, but this one note, they really want to know what that, and you really got to play that one note very, very special,
right,
to make the entire piece sound great.
Yeah.
And so what I like to relate it to is, like, I always say that we're like the field goal kicker.
Okay.
So when he goes out there and kicks a field goal, people are like, okay, 3 points, great, no big deal. But if he misses it,
yeah,
then they get mad, right? So it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
That's how I explain it.
And I've always thought, gosh, probably one of the, I don't know, you tell me, one of the hardest pieces. I think I love Bolero, but that drum piece, I mean, like 15 minutes of just bump, ba 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 bump, ba 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 bump. I mean, the same rhythm. I know it modulates a little bit, but pretty much kind of the same thing. That's got to be more difficult than kind of being all over the place, I would think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bolero is, everybody knows Bolero. People be like, what's Bolero? But you know the piece, you just don't know it. So if you go and YouTube it or whatever, listen to it,
sure,
you'll say, oh yeah, I know this piece. But what happens with the piece is it starts off with an extremely soft snare drum.
Right.
And the piece lasts about 15 minutes, and it starts off so soft. And I got to tell you, drums weren't made to be played soft, right? So it's obviously very difficult to play it. It's a neat effect if you can pull it off. And so, it is very challenging. And that's a good observation. We recently recorded Bolero. So a couple of years ago, you can go check that out. It starts off and it's extremely soft, and it stays extremely soft for 5 or 10 minutes. So it makes it even harder, right, to keep it going.
Right.
And I guess I could tell this story. It's kind of interesting because Joanne Folletta, our conductor, asked me, well, we played the concert, and then we actually, after the concert, did a recording of it, right? So, which is, no audience, like private recording. And she asked me, and she said, would you mind going into the audience and playing the snare drum out there? And I said, you mean where the seats are?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, go out there. And I said,
right.
How am I going to hear? She said, oh, it's a perfectly acoustic, beautiful hall. So you'll hear it. So I actually, if you listen to the recording, I am standing where the audience is sitting out in the audience, and the rest of the orchestra is up on stage.
Wow.
So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
She was right. I could totally hear everything that went on.
Yeah.
So probably never do that again. It
Right.
was a one-time experience, so it
Yeah.
was very nice
But
to do it. Yeah.
yeah, that's I've always wondered that because I'm just like, wow, that's because you've got to really, I mean, you could get so lost in thought, right? As you're just doing the
hmm
keeping it
There's a
going.
lot of cartoons out there that you can look up
Yeah.
that list as a joke. What's the snare drummer thinking during bolero? And then it's exactly what you think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of true, actually.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it came to my mind because right now, as we record, the Olympics are going on.
Yeah.
Of course, Torval and Dean did a fantastic ice dance to Bolero back
Yeah.
in the
And
80s.
it's the only piece that I've memorized from beginning to end
Oh, wow.
because it's the same thing over and over.
Sure.
Again.
No, that's crazy. Now, obviously, because you said you're learning on kit and all that, and but you got to be able to read music to do what you do. So,
Right.
like, how did that come about? After you learned, and then it's like, okay, I guess I got to learn how to read these dots and figure
Yeah,
out what
that's
they
a
are.
good question. It's funny because if you're not a percussionist, a lot of people say, well, how's that notated? How's it written down that you read this part, right?
Mhm.
Because snare drum, they see a snare drum, they're not sure exactly how it's written, or even a cowbell or something that's
Sure.
because we play a lot of non-pitched instruments
Mhm.
and they are notated differently. But a lot of times they're similar in notation. A lot of
Mhm.
people have said, well, how do you memorize a snare drum piece? Because it's just one note over and over again.
Right.
And that's not how we think of it, right? Because we're thinking about different things. When you start off as a drummer, drummers learn rhythms because there is not a lot to the snare drum. There's only that one thing. You're doing stickings and you're doing other things.
Mhm.
You learn rhythms, complex rhythms, way faster than other instruments because, other instruments are going to learn about their tone and they're doing long notes and things like that.
Sure.
We're working on other things. So we're learning, 30-second notes before, and everybody else is already only on whole notes, right? So
Right.
our brains work a little bit differently in that
Yeah.
way. But what happens is you learn all this, you start off on snare drum, and then you're asked to play, the xylophone or the marimba or whatever,
Mhm.
mallet instruments. And then that's written out like a piano is
Mhm.
written out, right? So other instruments are going to be written out on different, on the staff, different levels.
Sure.
And there's no standardization of how it should be written. So one composer might write a high tom-tom on this note
Mhm.
and then, going down. And then another composer is going to write it in a different place. So essentially you're learning a new instrument every time you have a piece because it's not standardized.
Sure.
Even cymbals. I mean, there's a famous Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. The beginning, you don't even need to know the piece, but the beginning of the fourth movement starts off with a big cymbal crash, right?
Mhm.
Okay, crash, big. But he wrote an eighth note, a short, very short note, which would sound ridiculous if you actually played what he wrote, right? So we have to use our own judgment. So
Mhm.
there's all sorts of things like that
Yeah.
go into orchestral percussion.
Right.
And yeah.
Now, I've seen different drummers hold the sticks differently.
Mhm.
Does that make a difference, or is it just more of a personal feel for
I think
what?
it's a personal preference.
Yeah.
Traditionally,
Yeah.
which is called traditional grip,
Mhm.
right? They use them like that. And, I figured out why they use it. Why did they play it? Why didn't they just play what we call matched grip, the
Right.
same in both the hands? The traditional grip started when if you strap on a snare drum with a harness,
Yeah.
it slants, okay, to the left. It's not going to sit up straight up and down, right? Because there's
okay.
nothing to hold it up. Or if you're on a horse
Right.
and you're riding around, it's going to be slanted.
Okay.
So to go put your arm over top of the drum it's very hard to do. So that's why they ended up
That's
putting it
interesting.
through their
Yeah.
fingers. So then they didn't have to pull their elbow all the way. It was just easier to play, right?
Right.
That way. That's my theory. I mean,
Okay.
that's not official, but that's my theory of why we play that way.
Right.
And I actually learned that way, but then I switched to match grip because so when I was younger, I learned that way, and then my high school was like, oh, we play this way. So marching band, you have to play a certain
Sure.
way. So we
Yeah.
switched,
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people play that way. Drum set, mostly drum
Mhm.
set players.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a difference in the sound
Mhm.
necessarily. You could be a
Right.
great drummer
Okay.
either way, right?
Yeah. No, I'm a big love rockabilly and love Buddy Holly, and Buddy's drummer used to play the sticks upside down with the pad end.
Okay.
What is?
Yeah.
And I know there's a term for that, but and also, why would you do that as opposed to using the
Yeah.
smaller
That's
end of the
called the
stick?
butt end of the stick.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's going to give you a fatter
Okay.
sound. Maybe he wanted to
Right.
be really loud
Yeah.
or bigger
Yeah.
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe his stick broke. I don't know.
Right.
And he flipped it
it.
because he had to.
There you go. Yeah.
Who knows, right? Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we're asked also to do so many different things in percussion. You get so many different, like, use this kind of mallet or use this or do that, you know?
Right.
And so it's interesting because there's so many thought processes to, oh, this will sound better, you know, if you use this. And so, you know, I have a bag full of like 3 billion mallets.
Right.
Just because I got to find the exact right one that's going to sound great on the xylophone.
Yeah.
And, you know, and if even in the middle of the piece, I'll be like, okay, now this section I need to switch mallets, and this section I use these, and over here on this note I'm going to use that mallet. So I'll have an array of mallets just sitting out at my ready to grab,
right,
and play. And that's, you know, that's mostly up to me, to the player. Like, they leave that up to the player for you to decide and say, okay, whatever you want to do, you can.
Right.
You use what you feel sounds great, best for this hall, for this instrument, whatever you're doing.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's crazy. So now, how did you get involved with the Cleveland Symphony?
When I was in Cleveland Institute of Music, where I did my master's, I was playing at the same time as I was getting my master's. I was playing with them, and we did actually quite a bit of recording there.
Oh.
Too, as well.
Right.
And, you know, most people don't know that Cleveland Orchestra is one of the best orchestras in the world. Some people even in Cleveland don't know that.
Right.
But they should. So it was a great experience, and I was very thankful to be in there. And my teacher at the time was the principal percussionist there.
Oh, okay.
So he asked me to come in and play
right.
With him. And there were a couple of instances. Actually, I was just telling the story to my kids the other day. So I had been playing with them for a while, and, you know, when they call you, they usually give you ample notice. Well, this one morning I was sitting around watching TV. I get a call on the phone. Hey, Mark, can you come in and play? I'm like, now? Yeah, this morning somebody's sick. Okay. Right. Oh, the cymbal player's sick. You know, we got to go. We're playing the planets. Okay, can you come in? I'm like, yeah, I guess. So I raced in there, played the concert, played the planets, you know, and went fine or whatever, and we were done. And then, you know, I guess they were doing that piece a lot. The next year, I was playing on the concert where they're playing the planets, but I didn't play that actual piece. I was sitting in the back. So I was backstage and I was watching TV, and somebody comes running back there and said, Mark, can you come out here and play snare drum for the planets? Why? Because this guy just got sick. Okay. Right. So I ran back out and played the planets again.
Wow.
You know, so it was interesting, you know.
Yeah.
So always be on the ready, right? Be ready to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that, and that's you know, sort of where I could kind of learn, you know, as a younger musician, like how to what's a great sound and how to play, and that. So I learned a lot from that.
Yeah. Drummer's the first guy to show up at the show and the last guy to leave, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Got the biggest gig bag of all, right?
Yep, that's us.
Yeah.
You know it.
At least probably with the orchestra, I would imagine that the instruments are there, so you're not setting up a kit, or am I wrong?
Most of the instruments are there. We use we bring, you know, our own smaller instruments, and we have an awesome crew that helps us with the instruments, but we still have to do our fair share of setting up the instruments exactly how and where we want them. Right. You know, they can't do that for us. So we're there, plenty early, setting up and breaking down plenty. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting because I think they said this will air afterwards, but you know, we're doing a Danny Elfman concerto, and so, but I think right after this we're doing Batman.
Yeah.
which Danny Elfman also wrote the music too.
Right,
So
yeah.
if you went to the percussion concerto, Danny Elfman concerto, and you like that, then you should go to Batman because he also wrote Batman.
Yeah.
And which is interesting. In almost all the movies that we do, we use a ton of percussion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very challenging for us, and sometimes for the orchestra too, depending on
Right.
the movie. But if you go to a movie concert, try to take a sneak peek. Usually it's dark, but if you take a sneak peek of there's usually like 1,000 instruments, and we usually tend to use offbeat instruments that we don't always use, like
Right.
a water phone and just bizarre, instruments. And percussion concerto, Danny Elfman's actually bringing his own instruments he made up that I don't even know what they are.
Right.
It's like, okay, the little springs and doodads and stuff that he created himself that he's going to use in the concerto. I was like, okay, great. So we have all sorts of different things. And the interesting thing about that has made me think of, the attention sometimes that percussionists get, or a lot of times we have to play a lot of the whistles. So I've played duck calls, I've played bird whistles, I've played all sorts of those things.
Yeah.
And that's usually what you get the most, attention for, right? Oh, great duck call, great whistle.
That's right. Great train whistle.
But I played the xylophone part that was really hard. Did you not notice that?
That's right.
Well, we noticed your duck call though. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get Danny to do any Oingo Boingo when he's there? So
Oingo Boingo is what I always think of.
Yeah.
When I think of Danny Elfman, I know other people don't. They always think of the movies, but that's what I always think of him as that, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah. Yeah. That was back when I was in school. That was good stuff.
Mhm.
But I remember when the Batman movies came out. That was like they were so different, and
and it's
based
interesting.
on Frank Miller's Batman and the Dark Knight stuff. And
I love that. Yeah, and it's funny because it's a good way. Movies are a great way to introduce people if they haven't been coming to the orchestra, or if you're like somebody that doesn't really, I don't really like classical music, or I don't even want to go to a rock show, or I don't want to do any of that. You go to a movie, if you go to see Jaws or whatever, you know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Right. So you already know what it is, but then you just kind of get to hear the soundtrack lined up exactly to the movie, but live. So it's actually a really awesome experience. I always say, I would much rather watch these movies than play them because they're very challenging.
Right.
And it'd be fun to watch all the movies. But it's a really unique experience. And so obviously if you like the movie, it's a good way to get introduced to the sound of an orchestra and how much it can really bring and how important it is.
Yeah.
The soundtrack to the movie, right? Imagine Star Wars with, not Star Wars with some other kind of music. It would not be maybe that great.
I mean, everyone knows. I mean, unless you've never seen Star Wars, I mean, everyone knows that, right? As soon as you hear it, you know where you are.
Right.
And that's what's cool with music too, right? It's just, you remember that from a movie, or, and maybe you don't even realize it. And I tell people, turn off the sound, just watch the movie and see what you're missing, and even the Foley artist, right? With just all the different stuff, and it just brings sound just brings it so much to life,
And I love that they, really, some of the high-end movies that we think about, some of the classic movies like Star Wars and whatever. I like Jaws, but whatever, whatever your favorite movie is a lot of times is orchestral, right? So it's made of orchestras and just gives it a different feel, and I think people still appreciate that. So I'm glad for that.
Well, I've said 1,000 times on the show, I grew up with Bugs Bunny.
That's right.
It's all orchestral, right?
And we'll be doing Bugs Bunny next year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Truly.
We
we are doing an entire Bugs Bunny show.
Oh,
yes,
cool.
we are.
Oh, I have to see that one. Kill the Wabbit.
Yep.
I think I was just talking with Travis about that, and we're going through, and it's like, the Rabbit of Seville, and it's all these. I mean, when I was a kid, I had no idea what it was, but I still hear the music, and I can picture, Bugs Bunny on Oliver Fudd's head growing plants,
And that's okay.
Yeah.
If that's what you remember, then great.
Yeah.
I think most people do kind of picture that when they hear it, and that's okay.
Right.
It kind of gives you an association with something. So
well, it's like I never knew. I'd like why do I like jazz? And then I'm like, wait a minute, Bugs Bunny is jazz.
Right.
You know, all those Warner Brothers cartoons were jazz. And,
There's a lot of pieces like that. So I was thinking of some of the pieces that are coming up at the end of our season, like Carmina Burana. People don't know if I say Carmina Burana, it was like, is that a NASCAR show?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Carmina? And what? No, but you know the piece, you just don't know that you know it, right?
Right.
So when you hear it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I've heard that on commercials. I've heard it on movies.
Yes.
All this, and it's really an amazing piece.
Mhm.
That piece has a ton of percussion and full chorus and like a big orchestra, and it's amazing. Something I'd recommend if you're, if you just don't know what should I go to, right? People always ask me, well, what should I go to, because I don't know what it is. And so I like to recommend pieces like that,
Right.
to check out. I mean, they're fun. Even you will know the piece, and you'll be happy when you leave, because you'll say, okay, this was a great piece, and I didn't even know I knew it, right? So you always want to kind of have something familiar when you go to it, right?
Sure. Yeah. But and I know there was just a show at Kleinhans there of Harold Arlen, and of course Harold Arlen's from Buffalo, and it's like everyone knows his songs, whether you know it or not,
right?
And it's like I think Over the Rainbow is the most popular song of the 20th century, based on Billboard, I think, something like that. And a Buffalo guy, I always love to connect those Buffalo dots, but it's
it's a great story.
It's both such great music, and all from here. But I'm gonna take a little bit of a segue and jump. I want to hear about Druminar. That really intrigues me.
Okay. Well, Druminar started back in the day when I went to a drum circle. I can't remember where it was, and somebody was like, well, I also do corporate drumming and things like that. And I thought that was interesting that they did it, and I was like, that's fine. Okay. So the backstory is my wife Jamie was also a former professional musician, but now she's working in corporate. And when she first started working, her manager asked her to create this program when they found out that she was a musician. Can you create a program that is business and music aligned together? And I said, well, I did this drum circle, and the person did that, and she said, well, yeah, we can't, no company is going to want to go just play a drum circle, take off all day and just play a drum circle and not learn anything. So she developed this program, actually. So this is from a professional who knows about business.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not me who created it. I obviously helped create it and run it and things like that too. But she said, well, why it wouldn't be cool to form it with orchestra and have some conducting involved with leadership. So we actually had a conductor come in. You would learn how to conduct, learn about leadership qualities, and the fact that the analogy that your CEO is like a conductor, right? The conductor needs to know everything about the orchestra, all the departments of the orchestra, the woodwinds, the brass, and percussion, and they need to know everything about everything, just like your CEO, right? But then there's issues that come with that, right? And how do we make our organization sound like a symphony, right? And so we started doing that, and it was very successful. I think just relating, people don't really believe that there's an association between business as music until after they go through it, and then it becomes apparent. So yeah.
Well, like I mentioned, the organization I'm with, we did an improv session, and I'll be honest, I mean, I've done community theater and done a lot of theater and stuff, and I'm like, this is gonna be stupid, but afterwards I was like, that was really cool. It really was kind of eye-opening. And they did a lot of stuff with throw a ball. There's lots of balls in the air, right? So who's got the red ball, who's got the green ball, who's got the blue ball, and you're constantly, because in sales and marketing which is what I'm in, you're constantly always switching gears and juggling. And in an orchestra, I would think the same thing too, right?
So we kind of created the program so you would learn something from it,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
Not just, but it was team building as well, right?
Mhm.
So, people performed their own pieces and things like that, and they had a lot of fun. And we've had a lot of crazy things happen. Sometimes people just get up and start dancing
Hmm.
to the drum circle without on
Right.
their own, which is
Yeah.
fine. But we would do it most of the time. We would do it on the stage at Kleinhans.
Okay.
So people actually would be able to come up there and
Mhm.
be on the stage, which is a big deal for some people. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can experience what it's like to be in an orchestra yourself. So you yourself were part of an orchestra, and I took you through different, different aspects of that. So
Yeah.
that's how that works. Yeah.
I kind of speaking on that, I mean, do you kind of, when you get up there, go, I can't believe I'm up here?
Oh, sure. I'm
Yeah.
happy every day
Yeah.
that I play. It's a great venue.
Mhm.
It truly is a really great sounding venue. When you go around and play in other
Right.
halls, you kind of realize, oh, okay, it doesn't sound, our hall actually sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
So it's an excellent hall. What I tell people in the audience when they talk to me, they say, oh, I can hear, even if I'm sitting up in the nosebleed section, I can hear every little thing you're doing. Like bolero. Oh, I can hear that really, really, really soft snare drum.
Right.
Right. And I say, I can actually also hear you if you're whispering.
Yeah.
We can actually hear really, really well
Yeah.
from
Wow.
the stage. So it's set up very nicely
Yeah.
that way. Inside tip, the only thing that we can't hear very well is if you use a microphone on stage and it's broadcast into the audience.
Okay.
It kind of sounds like Charlie Brown to us,
Right.
like
That wah. Yeah.
right. And so
Yeah.
what happens is some people like to tell jokes, especially in the pops, and we can't hear them. So we don't react, and people think we're pretty square and
Oh.
don't have a sense of humor. And we're like, no, it's just that we can't hear the joke.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, when Marvin Hamlish was here, he used to be our principal pops
Sure.
conductor, and he loved to tell jokes.
Mm-hmm.
He would tell a lot of jokes, and I was on the drum kit one time, and he got mad at me for not giving him a rim shot after his joke.
Oh, okay.
And I just said, well, when you say something funny,
Yeah.
right.
Give me a hand gesture or something.
Right.
Right. Oh, never thought of that. And it's interesting that, you would think with the acoustics being so good, you wouldn't need to be mic'd.
Yeah, and most of the time we're not.
Mm-hmm.
The only time we need to be mic'd is when something on stage, like an electric piano or something that needs to be electric,
Sure.
right? And
Mhm.
and so we need to capture the same volume.
Right.
But yeah, in general, the hall was made to not be mic'd,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
It has a supposedly acoustically, perfect
Right.
as much as you can be.
Right.
Right. So it's really nice to play in that hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of anything that rivals it. The first thing that comes to mind is like Carnegie.
Mm.
Carnegie Hall is obviously a very nice hall
Yeah.
to
Have
play.
you ever
at.
played Carnegie?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
many times.
Wow.
The orchestra has played there many times.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In fact, back in the day, the orchestra played there a lot,
Okay.
many times.
Wow, that's
So-
crazy. Now, kind of on a different subject. So, when you guys record, and you said you've done 60 recordings, that seems crazy. Are you recording the whole orchestra at the same time, or you're doing parts?
That's a good question. We basically, it depends, right? So we're recording all at the same time.
Okay.
So we're not doing like a band where, okay, let's get the drums and then you guys come in and
Right.
splice it together. No, we're all on stage at the same time
Mm-hmm.
and playing. It would be too hard to do that, right?
Right.
So we're all, it's extremely intense because we have to get this right. So
Yeah.
it's a very, very, everybody will say, well, I think my colleagues would agree with me that it's very, very intense because everybody has that one shot and they want to sound good.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do multiple takes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing 5, 6, 7 takes, you need to always play
Yeah.
that take first, perfectly, because you don't want that to be the one take where they go, okay, that was good and you didn't play great. So
Right.
it's very intense. And then what people never realize is that the silence, for musicians especially, we're very, our ears are trained to be completely silent
Mm.
during the break. So if any kind of movement or any little pin drops, it's a huge deal, right? It's like, okay, we can't take that take because the pin dropped, that kind of thing. So it and we're trained to do that anyway. But yeah, those are really, really intense.
Yeah. That's like keep your butterscotch candies in your purses, people. So, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I could imagine if you say you can hear a pin drop from up there, crinkle, crinkle, crunch, because it's got to drive you nuts.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Quit whispering to
you
your
can't
friends.
you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You basically have to sit there extremely silent.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And hope nothing happens.
But I think, when you go to a show at Kleinhead's, or you're there to listen, though. You're not at a bar. You're not there to have a cocktail and have it be background music. You're watching a show, right? I mean, you need to be, I think, respectful of their musicians and everybody else around, and I can imagine too, there's got to be, especially with some of the pop stuff, people are going to want to sing along.
Yeah, actually, when we do the pops and the rock and all that stuff, I think that's okay. That doesn't bother us at all,
Yeah.
So like we encourage that. Get up and dance or do whatever you want to do and have fun, because it's all about the fun. So we don't want to say that you can't have fun, and so I think people can kind of just relax and not worry about that. I think that's just a natural thing.
Sure.
I don't think anybody's going to, it's sort of like golf, right?
Right.
When you're ready to tee off, could somebody yell? Yeah, I suppose, but they usually don't. Right. That's very nice of them.
Yeah.
So that's all,
Well, tell my wife that. So the next time we went to see $1 Million Quartet at Shea's a bunch of years ago, and I'm a huge Elvis fan. You can
Nice.
tell. And she's like, it's not a sing along. So we're sitting there, and there was a couple of older couples sitting next to us. Well, the woman sitting next to me, she's singing all the songs, like and my wife's poking me. She said, "Will you shut up?" I said, "It's not me, it's her. You tell her to shut up." I said, but how can you not? Like you said, you hear that music and you just want to.
It's entertainment. That's what we're there for. You should have a good time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're getting close to the top of the hour. So what's coming up for at the BPO that you're going to be involved with? I forgot my notes as to
so many things, right? I had to look a little bit. I was looking before I came in here, just so I could answer. I was just trying to think about what I'm doing next week. But next, I mean, we do these all year round, and we were talking about this beforehand. Some of the education shows that we do do so many education shows during the year, and I think and excuse me if this is the wrong number, I think it's like almost 10,000 kids that we reach every year, maybe even more. It varies, but these are concerts that aren't even advertised, so you can't go and look them up. So next week I think we're doing 4 of those, and then we do 2 other shows. So we have 6 different concerts or something next week. So that it ends up being that. And I'll just say, for those of you who don't know anything about the orchestra, we do over 150 concerts a year, right? So I know there's lots of people who think we only play once at Christmas time and once in the summer, and that's just not true. It's a full-time job that we're constantly working. And the way I like to explain it to people is we have rehearsals, which is different than practice.
Right.
So rehearsals are when you come and you show up. So think of that like the Bills practice, Bills practice would be our rehearsal. They show up and they go through all the plays and they do all the, all we go through playing and rehearsing it. But, they don't go there and start lifting weights during that time. You do that on your own time. So that's our practice time. We do that at home, and then to come prepared to play the rehearsal.
Right.
And so sometimes, like for the pop shows, we usually only have one rehearsal, and then we do a show, and then we have another. So some of the classics will have more than that, but a lot of times it's not very many rehearsals. So you really have to come prepared, right? You don't have a chance to do that. So that makes it hard. And then we have so many different things. So one of them is, you're asking me about upcoming shows. There's a Rick Steves, which is like a symphonic journey through Europe, which is very interesting. We're going to have lots of different areas of Europe. And if you know Rick Steves, he's like the travel guy, right? So that should be interesting. And of course, we mentioned Batman.
Right. Yeah.
There's a classical guitar concert coming up.
Oh,
There's
wow.
a little bit of everything,
bit of
right?
it,
A
yeah.
Disney concert coming up. I mean, there's so many things. If you just look on there, there's a couple of rock shows.
Right. Now, will you be doing this Strictly Hip show, or?
Yeah, I do
Oh, cool.
almost every show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, because my wife and I are both going to see the Hip show and the Leslie Odom the next day. So.
Oh, and Leslie Odom, right? Yeah.
Looking forward to those. So yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, those should be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's some of the stuff that people kind of know, and there's so many shows, so you have to kind of pick and choose what you want. But yeah, there's almost all of them have a fair amount of percussion on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even like a Sunday, like I see we're doing like Peter and the Wolf, like for your kids and things like that. You know, like there's just a lot of stuff to see. Like you're gonna find something that you're gonna like there, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even like folksy stuff, like the Andrew Bird type things.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So something for everybody, I guess. Yeah. That you could come out and see, and it's all, I think, is really, really high quality.
Mm-hmm.
And something for everybody to enjoy.
Oh yeah, the BPO's been, I mean, world renowned. I mean, it's fantastic musicianship. And if you haven't gone to see a show, oh my goodness,
well, Leslie Odom is May 2nd.
Yeah, May 2nd. Yep.
And Strictly Hip.
Yeah, Strictly
Which
Hip.
is Tragically Hip cover band, sort of, right? So they're May 1st, so 1st. Like the day before.
Yeah, going back to back. Yeah. And I have a friend traveling in from Fairfax, Virginia to come up to the shows too. So
great.
Yeah, so it should be fun. Yeah. And her dad, ironically, was a composer. He taught at SUNY Fredonia. And he would compose I think it was saxophone on a piano.
Okay.
And he did all these really cool pieces, and I did a nice show about him. He's deceased, but I had her whole family on, via the internet, via Zoom. They're all over the country and telling great stories about, and it's like, and he's done all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, how do you hear that stuff, and be able to...
It's amazing because like percussion composers too are different. And that, I'll slide in a shameless plug for something I'm doing at Buff State. It's a new marimba festival. And we're having marimba people from all over the world, really soloists, come in and perform like an entire marimba festival. And the highlight is Michael Burrett from Eastman, Professor Eastman. Amazing performer, amazing composer. And he's going to be playing some of his pieces that are incredible.
Right.
And there is, speaking of drum circles, there will be a drum circle open to everybody right before, and that's on April 7th.
Oh, wow.
At 7 o'clock. Wow. So if you want to come out, it's at the Performing Arts Center at Buff State.
At Buff State. Okay. Oh, that's great to know.
So it's open to everybody, and if you don't know what a marimba is, then come and find out, right?
Right.
And the people who do will be pretty excited because there's going to be like a lot of, percussion groups there, people who've won, festivals from all over the world, and just like really, really something you don't really get to see very often, so it's just something to kind of look forward to.
That's crazy. Do you ever take part in, because I know there's a bunch of drummers that get together. Ted Reinhardt was a really great rock drummer with Spyro Gyra, and he passed away in a plane accident a few years ago. Very well revered, and they always have a big drum circle type festival thing. They used to have it out at Old Man River, and I think it's moving around. And
I've seen some of those. Yeah, those are neat. Yeah,
and everyone just brings their kits and has a good time.
Yeah, that's fun to do. Usually schedule doesn't work out for me on those sometimes, but yeah.
Now, do you ever kind of go backwards and just play a cocktail kit? It just kind of get because I'm a rockabilly guy. If you haven't figured that out, I just love that. You know?
Not necessarily cocktail, but the only time I'll do that, sometimes I'll do that in some of the Druminars because I don't want to set up an entire kit and cover everybody up, right? So I'll use a small little kit or something like that. But it's not a true, what we call a cocktail kit.
Sure.
But smaller. I have like a smaller little kit that I use just to move around, and then a larger kit that I have at home, and then we have one at the orchestra. Yeah. So
because it always amazes me what Slim Jim Phantom can do. I'm a Stray Cats fan, and what he can do with that with a snare and a bass.
Oh yeah, you don't need much, right?
No,
The good drummers are good.
Yeah,
to play.
it's kind of that less is more thing, and they just get so much sound out of.
Oh, it's amazing
You know?
what they have out now today. Just as far as the quality with
Yeah.
the smaller kits, even more now that the quality can be really, really good and
Right.
still have a small kit. So
Yeah.
that's nice for people who move around. And same thing with timpani. Actually, people play timpani gigs and
Mhm.
they can't fit a whole timpani in their car, so
Sure.
we have smaller ones that we use, and
Yeah.
those have gotten better too. So
I've
yeah.
always wanted to play that, just as a boom. That sound just gets to you. It's kind of like an upright bass. It just the echo and the quality of those notes just get into your soul.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I would love to do that. I know you asked me if I played an instrument. I tried drums in 6th grade and just gave it up. But and I've had a couple folks, Jamie Sunshine, who's a local drummer. I'll teach you, Greg. You got it in you. I know you got it in you. She teaches down SUNY Fredonia, and great drummer. It plays all the percussion instruments, and she's like, you got to get a cajon, man. He says, just get a cajon. I'll teach you. So I can, just sit there when I'm doing my folk duo with my buddy. I'm like, yeah, I can, because I'm usually tapping my legs and,
Yeah, I was trying to figure out. We've done some percussion ensemble things with cajones, and if you don't know what a cajon is, it's like a big piece of square of metal, rectangular wood,
right?
and you sit on it, and then you play on the side of the wood.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out, is there another percussion instrument that you actually sit on and play at the same time? I can't really think. If you can think of one, then give me a call.
Yeah.
That's right. That you actually sit on the.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I've actually had a band down here with, and they recorded, and he brought a cajon, and it's like, yeah, I don't have enough room obviously to set up a full kit down here, and or the time, but he's again though, it didn't sound like anything was missing.
And now you can set up your cajon to be your bass drum with a pedal. Like a remote bass drum pedal, and then a little beater that plays. The beater will play on the cajon, and it sounds like a bass drum, and you can do other things.
Oh,
that's They have all sorts of stuff now.
Wow.
Right? It's advanced.
What I say, EGS, right? Excessive gear syndrome. Well, go get some more stuff, because I'd love to. I mean, my buddy's like, yeah, let's get some congas or something, and learn how to do that. And
yeah,
because I said, we do Cecilia a lot, the Simon and Garfunkel. I said, we got to have the drum part. It's like, you can't do that. I mean, we do it without the drum, but that's something that absolutely should have a drum. You know,
got to hire a drummer.
Yeah. No, we don't want to share our money. But well, anyways, Mark, I can't thank you for coming down.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this is great. Congratulations on so many years of doing this. Excellent podcast, and thank you for supporting the BPO. And
absolutely. And we'll as always on rockabillygreg.com I will have links to the BPO and where you can find all these great shows and find out where Mark's playing. And I'm sure you have links for your Druminar and where folks can
I do
find you for that, for some corporate gigs.
You can have that. And I'm also so real quick, our days off are Mondays. So that's when I travel to Eastman, teach out at Eastman, and then I travel back and teach at Buff State in the same day until late at night. So that's my day off.
Wow.
So I also have, if you want to see concerts, any of those places too, thousands of concerts. So
wow,
tons of places to see great percussion.
Yeah. Well, and it's great that you're actually a musician that's making a living playing music.
Yep.
And it can be done, right?
It can be.
Yeah, that's great. You got to work though, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Hard work.
So again, to everyone, thanks for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed the show just as much as we have. And as always, you can find the podcast where you find your podcasts at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, YouTube, thebuffalohive.com. And as mentioned, you can always find the podcast at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music. And I will have bios and links and videos and all kinds of cool stuff on there to give you an idea of what Mark's up to and what the BPO's up to. So again, Mark, thanks for coming down.
Thanks so much for having me.
For everyone who's tuned in, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. In the Flamingo Lounge is made possible in part by catslikeus.com, your online store for authentic vintage clothing and accessories. Buffalo Ironworks, an intimate live music venue and bar located in the Cobblestone District in downtown Buffalo. And by Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, Western New York's premier golf course, restaurant, and banquet facility. At the Hawk, the bar is hopping year-round with live music every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and some other nights, too. Tune in for a new episode every Saturday at 9 a.m. EST at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music. Bark, Zoe, bark. Good girl.